Hello and welcome to the special transatlantic edition of the Punters Guide. Like I say, Jason Weaver is alongside us as always. We've got the final fixture on the flat at Doncaster to look forward to this weekend. And then we hop over, of course, the Atlantic to look ahead to the Breeders' Cup this weekend. A fantastic occasion stateside. Best of both worlds this weekend, Jace.
Yeah, it's tremendous racing. When they call it the World Championships, don't they? And they'll say that flag behind you at the moment is the only one there is in the world. Everybody's got a special moment, whether it's Leicester Piggott winning on Royal Academy or Aranzi is the one that everybody always seems to talk about, and maybe some of the calls as well that you remember. I think it was Richard Mandela, Mandela, what a day when he had 4 winners. Lots of excellent racing. And I must tell you about the track. It's very, very tight. We haven't got hardly any representation. I think the Japanese have got a few runners in the dirt races. But that turf track, if you don't get a little bit of luck on the way round, it's off and gone. It's all over. And our horses are notoriously slow from the gates, aren't they, compared to the Americans?
Yeah, certainly. I'm going to need the gaps on it. It is incredibly tight as well. It's like Chester on acid, isn't it? And you will need plenty of luck in running. We'll head over there shortly. Let's look at Doncaster first of all. It is the final turf meet to say of the season, traditionally held at Doncaster. The 125 is the first race in front of the ITV cameras. And as always, big fields the order of the day, but you're going to need to handle the ground. Always soft for this occasion, but there's plenty there that like it. Orban, Raisin Sand, Tom Frey, all like to get the toe in.
Yeah, some really good horses lining up. Tom Frey's been a bit of a cliff horse of mine down throughout the seasons, but 7 furlongs, good bit of dig in it. He was a little bit disappointing the last time we saw him with some real sort of give in the ground. When he won at Leicester, or he ran well at Leicester, and that would be a little bit of a worry for me. Horse who's flown under the radar here for William Haggis is Boo Salah. Now, they thought he was really good. When he bolted up on his debut, and then he went back to back as a juvenile, they were thinking, right, he's definitely going to come back for the gym crack. Anyway, he was off for whatever reason. He was off for a very, very long time. He's come back. His return run was okay. He's a little bit disappointed last time, but I think getting him back on the turf under these sort of conditions, we'll see an improved player. Tom Marquand on board, around about 12, something like that. I think he's an each-way player.
Tom Marquand's riding brilliantly with all the others away around the world. He's been picking up winners left, right, and centre. And with the Sean Murphy, what he said the other day about maybe giving somebody else a shot, it's going to be a great champion jockeys race next year.
Yeah, it will be. I don't know about Oshin just saying that. It was sort of a little bit flippant, wasn't he? I might let Buick and Marquand have it next year or whatever. But I think he'll have to, you find yourself in that position. I think you get up until the glorious Goodwood meeting. You don't look at it until then. But once that's underway and you sort of work out where you are as far as the table is concerned, that's when they all start kicking for it. And that competitive nature kicks in.
Let's look into the Wentworth Stakes, because another jockey who's had a fantastic year is David Probert, of course, rides predominantly for Andrew Baldwin. And he's going to carry the Queen colours here on King's Lynn, your likely favourite.
Yeah, he's going to be towards the top of the pack. The likes of Dakota Gold haven't fired so far this year. He's going to be tearing off from a stall not too far away from King's Lynn. Now, you remember when he backed up at the Royal Meeting, we thought, he's an absolute good thing, and they punted him off the boards, but it just didn't happen for him. Maybe the quick turnaround. And for me, he's got very strong form here at Doncaster, the likes of Ainsdale. He's been a good old stick for us, and he'll appreciate the ground conditions at Doncaster as well. But I normally like to shy away from the top of the market. However, King's Lynn does look the class act in here.
Could be a roll winner then on the final day of the flat season. And then they don't come much more competitive than the November handicap. 23 runners around the 1.5 miles, the turn on Townmore. It's an absolute cracking renewal. We've got Godolphin top of the weights with Global Storm, Calling the Wind in there. Sam Cook with good winner at York. And the one right down the bottom, Farhand for Holly Doyle as well can't be discounted. He caught my eye.
Yeah, well, Farhan, he's got, number 23, as you mentioned, right down the bottom, Holly Doyle on board. I think he's about 10, so there's still a little bit of juice in his price if you like him from an each-way perspective. Sam Cook, remember him getting punted off the boards on numerous occasions, and then it finally came good for him, and he's just stuck a couple of good races together. Rob Hornby, another rider who's had a really good time of it. I think with, as you mentioned, that soft ground, rhythmic intent, very disappointing under these conditions last time, but he's a bit better than what he showed. I have to stick with Sam Cook. I think that he maybe has turned the corner. And speaking to his trainer up at York, he just said he's had so many things go wrong with him, and it's just now started to click into gear. You wouldn't get a trainer in any better form either.
Yeah, Rick Becker absolutely flying as well, of course. Sam Cook for Jason in the November handicap. Then, before we head stateside across the Atlantic, Jason, what would be your idea of the best bet on the card at Doncaster? Is one or three were mentioned, or is there something else lurking as we say goodbye to the turf?
Yeah, I think that he comes with a little bit of a reputation. He is on a recovery mission, but he's been working quite well. Boo Salah, who goes for the William Haggis team. I think he's an each-way player, because we've got the old sort of favourites in there. We haven't seen enough of him to suggest that he's actually at his ceiling rating at the moment. And, he was thrown in I think it was the Ben Goff he ran in last time. And, he went off a fair price, but he didn't run too bad. So he might be better than his high 90s rating.
Well, then Busala, the one to hopefully get some dollars in the wallet ahead of we head on the plane over the Atlantic Ocean, where the surf meets the turf. I mean, it's a sensational setting, isn't it, Delmar? It's literally if you've got a wayward one and it bolts and it goes off the back straight, then you're in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, and when you saw the picture of David Egan, he'd been in between riding out in the morning and had gone down with one of the Ortiz brothers, who's supposed to be a really good surfer, and literally was down there trying his hand at it. It looked a fantastic photo. I'd like to see one or two of the tumbles as well, as far as David is concerned, but he's a talented rider. And obviously, David going there, he rides Tiona because Pellier couldn't do the weight, just 8 stone 7 or 119 pounds, as they call it. So, yeah, big time for him, but he did well over in the Saudi Cup.
Yeah, he certainly did. Yeah, there's no mystery for this year, but we'll talk about Tiona shortly. We're going to get on to the speedsters first of all, because the turf sprint is the first race that we want to have a look at. Now, Kevin Ryan's got a great hand here. He's got the Nunthorpe winner, Emma Artiana. He's got last year's turf sprint winner as well, Glass Slippers. But the track from last year that Glass Slippers went on, which I think was 5.5 furlongs, this is going to be even quicker. So he's going to have to probably improve a little bit more once again.
Yeah, I mean, look, she has been handed the ideal position, hasn't she, in stall number 1. So she's going to try. I mean, it was an absolute dream run round that he got last year, wasn't it? A case for you. What about him, the way he managed to win over in France? But again, that's going to be completely different going around here. He was galloping through the bog, wasn't he, over in France? And so he has to prove himself. I thought he got a great ride from Ronan Whelan on that occasion. And Emma Artiana, he's a big, long, rangy individual, and the straight tracks seem to suit him, don't they, after the brilliant run, obviously, in the Nunthorpe, then putting up a great performance at Haydock. This one is literally around that left-hand turn, and he might just find it hard. I was a big fan of Golden Pal. He cost me an absolute fortune when he got beat in the Norfolk. The winner didn't end up too bad. And then again at York, major disappointment. But he'd been going through the gears nicely. They backed him like defeat was out of the question. He'd been training like a champion. And then last time he absolutely scooted away. So I just find it hard around here. If they miss it a quarter of a beat, never mind a half, they'll be off and gone. Yeah,
certainly will be. I mean, Golden Pal, he's been quite shrewd about it, hasn't he, Wesley Ward? He's ultimate confidence in him, really.
Yeah, and he's a natural speedster. I mean, when he set off like the Knavesmire, I did have to look back again this morning. He was still only beaten, I think, about 4 3/4 lengths after blasting off down there. But this little turn where his rider can get half a blow into him and just let him zip down that home straight. Because, it's a furlong from the finish. And, as ours are trying to get organised and straightened up and levelled off, he'll be gone.
Yeah, second in the non-club, Henry Arton. I should have said, of course, he did win at Haydock. Right, we move on to the filly and mare turf. This is at 8:59, Jason. We've got a couple of Juddmonte runners in here, an American one, Pocket Square. He used to be trained on these shores. And also, Gail Lyons' Akenel. We've got Rougier, who beat Ordaya over in France when we last saw her in action. Ordaya, of course, comes to try and retain her title. And across all of them, we've got the Japanese runner Loves Only You, who's behind Mishriff and Chronogenesis earlier on at Maidan in March. I mean, this is an absolute cracker.
It is an absolute belter. It's the right sort of trip, isn't it, for Love? I'm not so sure if Ordara is going to appreciate this trip. I suppose they know her well, don't they, now? But it's a little bit of a step into the unknown, and she hasn't looked for all the world as if she's been really flashing through the line the last couple of times. So I'm a little bit worried for her bidding to go back to back, but obviously she'll be in there pitching. You hit the nail on the head. If there is an outstanding piece of form, Loves Only You, a neck and a neck behind Mishriff and Chronogenesis. Chronogenesis and Mishriff, one of the top-rated horses in the world. Make no mistake about that. So I think that, and she's around about 4-1. The Japanese contingent, they've got chances on the turf. They've thrown a few into some of the dirt races as well. And we know how strong their pool of horses is. But I think if she runs anywhere near that, she's going to take a world of beating. And I would imagine if we had the chance to speak to Oisin Murphy, who's on Ocean Road, I think he would have loved to have stayed loyal. But obviously his retainer's got a runner, so he's got to ride that.
Yeah, he certainly has. Loves Only You, then a huge chance in that filly and mare turf. Now, if there's one chance of European success this weekend, it looks likely to come in the Breeders' Cup Mile. Charlie Appleby Saddles, both Master of the Seas, I know you've been quite confident about all year, and also Space Blues. And he said the Space Blues is his best chance, and many pundits putting this one up as the banker for the European team.
Yeah, he's a fascinating one, isn't he? All of that brilliant form over the long sprint distances. He's going to be in a 2-turn mile, which should help him theoretically to get a little breather into him and get him to see out the trip. And you've got to be impressed with the way that he travels in his races. I mean, he's pretty bomb-proof, isn't he? So he's going to give you a real good run for your money. But the likes of, Mother Earth is going in there. What a tough as teak runner she has been all season, and she's small, neat little performer who's got a really good change of gear. And I'm going to follow him in once more because I think that something must have come alight for his appalling run last time. Master of the Seas, ahead behind Poetic Flair in the 2000 Guineas. We didn't see him for ages. He came back, he ran in the Joel. He was definitely fatter than me. And that's saying something when he ran there behind Ben Battle. And I thought he'd take a step forward. Of course, he ran up behind Baid and all the superstars. But he's better than that. And these just might be his conditions. Where's he got? He's got the one stall as well. So hopefully the Doyler can get him out and just track the pace.
Stay loyal then to Master of the Seas, a Godolphin winner of the Breeders' Cup Mile, but not Space Blues, Jason's fancying in that big one. And then the Breeders' Cup Turf, another chance for the Europeans. It's a race that they've farmed over the years. The boys in blue again, doubly represented. The Great Voltage winner, Yabir Walton Street already won stateside this season as well. Got some good Maidan form on his CV. We mentioned Tiona a little earlier, and then last year's heroine, Turnower, as well. And Bolshoi Bally sneaks in. It's a strong European hand for the turf.
Yeah, it's very, very strong indeed. Tanawa, I want to be super confident with her, but she was obviously primed to run a massive race over in the Arc and under tough conditions. She seems to have bounced out of it okay. They've clipped her out. Seen her on the track training. She's doing everything right. Colin Keane will have to be at his very best to get a clear run round. You can't be 3 and 4 wide. You've got to get in somewhere. And we know that when she made that move last year, she swung out round the outside and got momentum going and then hit the line really, really strongly. I mean, it was impressive. But I want her to win. I do want her to win. Tiona, she's only drawn, I think, 2 stalls away from her, just down to the inside. David Egan will be absolutely gunning her. She's a little bit more straightforward. I think the track will be okay. I like the way that she races. She goes forward. She goes handy, doesn't she? My heart says I want Tanawa to win, and everybody would be mighty disappointed if she doesn't get it done. I think Tiona's just flying a little bit under the radar. I'm sorry, I'm going to have 2 bites at the cherry. The 2 girls for us.
Tanawa, Tiona, the 2 T's as well. So, yeah, it's an absolute cracker, strong European hand in the turf. What would be your idea of a Breeders' Cup banker on Saturday night?
On Saturday, I think that everyone's talked about the Classic, and there are just so many horses that go forward. You've also got a horse in there, Nix Go, who has never run over this trip so far. So he's a bit of a question mark, and he loves to get out and dominate. But there are about 3 or 4 that go forward. There's a little horse in there called Max Player, who stays very, very well indeed. Now, he's going to need them to go incredibly fast if he's going to come home and get a little slice of it. His trainer's got 6 representatives over the 2 days. Steve Asmussen, he's just won the Eclipse Award, winning most trainer ever over in America, up at 9,000 and something. It was remarkable. And his team have been in great form. He's off the back of a really good win last time. And he's just flying again under the radar in the Classic. Max Player.
Like it. Max Player in the Classic, then one to keep an eye on in the early hours of Sunday morning, of course, on the East Coast, the West Coast, should say, of America. So that's it. That's the Punters Guide. Thanks for Jason once again for joining us, covering the action at Doncaster and at Delmar this weekend. We'll have lots of jumps previews as well across all the Betfred social media channels and in our shops throughout the weekend. Of course, we've got great action at Aintree, Wincanton and Sandown on Sunday as well. Wherever you're back in this weekend, whether it's at home or stateside, very best of luck.